In this video, I'm going to break down our exact content system that we implement for clients. This is basically what we've done with this client to cash him so far 57 and something K over the last few months. As you can see, we have a pretty good close rate, pretty low no-show rate, and all of these things. And this is basically what we do to make that happen. So if you want results like this, as you can see, you're 7.5K a day, 4.5K a day, 10K a week, blah, 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 then definitely stick around to the video because this is literally everything we do to make it happen. From coming up with the ideas to understanding how to make better content to tracking to actually converting the traffic into high paying clients. So if you're a coach, if you have a coaching program, if you're trying to start one, if you have clients for yourself, I'm going to try my very best to give you some value in this video. And like I said, go in as much detail as possible. So the first thing is that we don't really focus on views, right? We want to focus on leads, getting actual leads that we can, get on calls and actually close them for 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K upfront. And that's what we're trying to make content for, attracting the right people. So we are focusing on making content that speaks to like the ideal client that we actually want to attract so that we can get them into the sales cycle and actually get them on a call, like I said, and close them. We don't really care about views. If a video gets a lot of views, it's in the right, like it gets the right people in, that's great. But if it gets a lot of views and it's not for the right person, and we just attract a bunch of people that doesn't have the money or they're not our ideal clients, like that's not really what we want to do. So that's the first thing that we do, right? We focus on leads. And that just makes the entire process a lot more simple because if you know what your goal is to get leads and not to get views, then you're not really going to be too much caught up in how many views a video gets, but rather how much money you make on that month. So with that being said, the first thing that we do to make this happen is we go in extreme detail when it comes to the market research, really understanding who we're actually making content for. If you want to make better content that attracts, buyers, your ICP, ideal customer profile, then you need to do this as well. And these are just some examples of like questions that you can ask your ideal clients. And again, you can ask these on story polls. You can speak to them in the DMs. You can jump on calls with them. You can do interviews with your current clients, your best clients, the clients you want more of. You can look up on Reddit or Twitter, people in your niche, what are they speaking about? What does the comment section say? And stuff like that. And for all of our clients, we go through a very detailed sheet to get as much information as we can from the client and what they know. And then we also go into detail on the stories and speak to people in the DMs to ask them questions to kind of understand like in detail what people actually want, what their issues are, what their goals are, what kind of offer is going to be interesting to them, stuff like that. And that's what we base the actual offer on and the actual marketing strategy. So that's why I'm saying that this is the first step. So some questions that you can ask your audience to make this happen. And even if you don't have an audience yet, but you want to find a niche, like you need to find the answers to these questions, because if you don't do a good job of actually speaking to the right person and like really understanding them and speaking kind of about their pain points, their goals, and really making it seem like you really know them and know their struggles, then it's going to be very hard to get anybody to, invest into a program if it's kind of vague. They don't really resonate with it. So some questions that you can ask your audience or whoever you're trying to attract, if you have a new offer even, is, what are their deepest desires? What's their deepest pain points? What keeps them up at night? What have they tried before that didn't work? And how did that kind of make them feel? If they didn't get results with, they can be investing in something, trying something before that didn't really work, whatever. And this obviously depends on your offer as well, but just extrapolate this to whatever, you're selling at the moment or what you're trying to get into. What do they want? What do they not want? How do they feel about their current situation? What makes them happy? What makes them sad? What are they afraid of? Who are they listening to? So is there anybody else in the space that they probably listen to or have listened to in the past? Why should they listen to you? Like what makes you unique? Why should anybody in this situation actually listen to you? What makes you unique? What have you done? How can you help them? All of these things. And then what are their limiting beliefs and what beliefs do they need to actually adopt to buy from you or to make it more likely that they actually see the value in what you have to sell them? For example, if you sell some sort of like a business coaching online, but people might not believe that you can actually make money online, it's going to be very hard. So you need to kind of switch their beliefs around. And understand that they've probably been told that they can't make money online, but you actually can. And you need to kind of like explain it in a way that they understand and actually start adopting the beliefs that they need to have in order for you to actually get them as a client. And then what pushes them away? What attracts them? So this can be information, this can be a lifestyle, this can be you as a person, even the way you dress, the way that you take care of yourself. All of these things comes into kind of the content and everything from stories to whatever, like what attracts them, what repels them? How can you connect with them? So like, what stuff do you do that they probably also do that, you know, you can kind of connect with them? And then what is the story they keep telling themselves? So they probably have a story that they keep telling themselves about, you know, why they're not getting results, blah, blah, blah. Again, comes back to the limiting beliefs. So you need to kind of understand what they're struggling with, what they keep telling themselves, why they're not getting results, why they're frustrated, all of these things, and really understand them so you can make content to attract them and basically make them something that they would be interested in consuming and then later down the line actually investing in. And then how can you help them rewrite the story? So what can you provide them to basically, you know, open a new chapter, get better results? How is this different? How is your offer going to help them? How is your content going to help them? Do you really understand them? And then what offer and value will they actually be interested in? So because we go into so much detail about these things, we know kind of what to make content about. So with that being said, if we don't know these things, it's going to be very hard for us to actually make content that's going to be resonating with the right people that we want to attract. And if we just attract the wrong people, then, you know, the sales process can be as dialed as possible. But if the people coming in are, you know, not the right person, then it doesn't really matter. We're not going to have great success with anything that follows. So this is like the first step. And then once this is done, so like once we have a very deep understanding of like who we're actually trying to go after, we can use this in the marketing, the sales, the appointment setting, all of these things. So the next step is basically to actually start stealing some ideas from people, understanding what's currently in the space and even outside of your space. It can be just videos that have really good engagement, like really good videos that performed really well. Outliers basically. So if you download vidIQ, this is an extension you can download for free on Chrome extension. You can actually see the outliers. So as you can see here, this guy had a crazy outlier, like 8.1x more than, you know, he usually gets on views. So this tells us that this headline, this thumbnail, something about this video was, you know, very well made. So we can just use this as inspiration. And then you can just go through YouTube with this extension and find videos that did really well, either, you know, in your niche, or you can find people outside of your niche and just take inspiration about the headline, the thumbnail, the actual video idea and make them your own. So you come up with, you know, good hooks, good content ideas, you make a list of competitors and, you know, just track their content. So as you can see, this is my list for this channel specifically. I have William Brown, Jason Cooperson, all of these guys that I think make good content. And I just track them. I look at their stuff. I find inspiration for videos. And I just basically, I don't copy anybody, but I come up with ideas that basically have worked well for other people. And I kind of put my own twist on it. So that's like the first thing, stealing ideas, finding a list of people that you can actually, you know, start consuming their content, see what actually works with the video. Why did this video do so well? Is it the hook? Like, how is this? And you can obviously do the same on IG. And the next step is to actually be tracking the content, right? So we track all the content that we do. And we basically we just have like a content calendar, as you can see here. So we have a calendar, we track all the content in the production stage. So as you can see, like recording, editing, review, finished, all of this stuff just makes it very easy with the editor, the client, whoever, to go in here. We script up the videos, we put them in here. The client records them, the editor edits them, we put them in revision, blah, 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 stuff like that. So it's just very easy. And you're also able to actually keep a system in place when it comes to content, because if you really want to get good content and attract the right people, you need to track your stuff, right? So just tracking like how many videos you make per week, put them into, as you can see here, you can also use like a calendar so you can schedule it out, know exactly when you're posting different things. And then also tracking the actual performance. So as you can see here, we have posted videos. So under this tab, we basically just have all the videos, even down to stories, even stories, IG organic, YouTube, everything, lead magnets, whatever. And we track what is actually working. Like, what is it that really hits hard? And we just make more of that, right? So we just basically find competitors, find other content that did well. We test it out. We see what works for us and we keep a list of what works. And then we make more of this. And then, you know, again, we're not tracking views. We're trying to understand what content actually brings us the right people, actually brings us appointments and sales. So that's number 2. Track your content, track the production, and also track what happens after you posted. How did the video go? Did you book in appointments? And this is kind of the content strategy visualized. And as you can see here, this is an example of like a client. and the videos that he'd made before was like vlogs, you know, general personal stuff that didn't really resonate with the people that he wanted to attract. So when we came in, we just switched it up, you know, making content that actually is going to attract the people that we want to attract. This is going to resonate with the people that we actually want to come into the funnel. And obviously you can make personal content as well. It's going to connect with them, stuff like that. But you should have content that is like specifically designed to actually get you sales. And that's what we did. And here you can kind of see like what it looks like on YouTube and also on IG and everything like that. This is like the YouTube video long form, and this is like in the description. So we have 3 links. We have a link to a VSL, which obviously the call to action is to book in a call. We have a free resource in the description, get people on an email list. The email list is providing a lot of value, and we have call to actions for people to go back to the VSL. And from there, obviously the call to action is to book in a call. And then the third link is just for IG, right? So if they want to connect, if they want to follow us on IG, whatever action they do, we basically get a notification that goes to the appointment setter, and you know, he does his job and books them in. So I'm going to touch on this in a second, like the actual conversion, but this is also on IG, right? So IG stories, having a few call to actions per week. This is more like, you know, softer call to actions. So as you can see here, doing polls, Q&As, stuff like that. Basically stuff that engages people, but we're not like selling them on anything. Like we just get them to take an action. We open up the conversation. We get, you know, an in for the appointment setter and stuff like that. The setter also does outbound to all of the story views we get. The client also obviously posts his stuff to connect with the audience, you know, whatever he is doing in the day, insights, you know, raw talks, whatever. And then we also have a strong call to action. So this would be, for example, a story sequence where it's like you give them some context, some social proof, what they're going to be getting, why this is going to benefit them, stuff like that. You, again, speak in their language based off of the market research, what they actually want. And then you get them to take an action at the end. For example, DM me for a free video or a private video, or DM me for coaching, stuff like that. That's basically what we do on stories. And like I said, the setter basically reaches out to all of these guys. So this helps because you're nurturing people over time. People actually start watching your stories. And then once you hit a CTA, it just hits way harder than if you never post on stories and you only have promotional stories. So we do kind of like a mix of both. And then on IG Reels, we basically just script up the content like I showed you in the content calendar. And from here, we have ManyChat, so some sort of like an automation, which I'm going to touch on in like a little bit later. And then to the free resource, whatever, we usually have like a call to action at the end. So like comment the word, whatever, something like that. From there, the setter obviously reaches out to them. We give them the free resource with ManyChat, and then he picks up the conversation. You know, let's say in the description of the video we send them or whatever, we have like a type form or some sort of like a link to the VSL again. So we have 2 kind of ways to get them on a call, either through the setter or them booking in themselves. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about this because again, I spoke about it in my last video, but we basically just use repurpose the same content over to LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, because it's just free traffic. So we get free traffic. We link people back to the to IG. So like we have the actual link in the bio, and we tell them like, hey, if you want this resource or if you want anything, DM me on IG. Don't, you know, DM me on TikTok or whatever. And we actually get people to, you know, come back to IG. So it's just free content, free subs. Like we're getting a lot of subs from each YouTube short that it's just like automatically published. Every single time we publish on IG, it gets repurposed. And then LinkedIn is its own funnel. So that's basically what we do when it comes to the content, like how we script it up, how we come up with ideas, how we track it, and all of that stuff. And then from here, obviously we need to convert the traffic, right? We need to actually make sure that people book in. The way we do this is we have, you know, appointment setters, and we also have self-booking. So people basically booking in straight from the VSL, you know, booking in the call themselves. So when it comes to the VSL, I've already kind of shown you this, but I wanted to show you this as well, right? When it comes to the actual conversion rate. So as you can see with this client, we didn't have as many like views on the actual page, but obviously the conversion rate is lower than 5%. So at this point, you know, even though we made a lot of money, because when people come from YouTube, they're usually very warm, right? They've watched a lot of content, they've seen the VSL, they booked in themselves. They're usually very warm and like a good lead. It's easier to close these calls, but obviously you want to get as many of them as possible. So right now we just made a new video, but we wouldn't have known to make a new VSL if we didn't track the numbers of the actual conversion rate, right? So it just, again, very important to track the numbers. And then from there, obviously the appointment setting. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about the appointment setting. I just want to like very briefly touch on it. Basically what an appointment setter does is, specifically on Instagram, like a DM appointment setter, like is an actual person, not an AI, but an actual person that, reaches out to everybody that starts following you, your story views, people that engage in your stories, people that send you inbound DMs, people that comment on your stuff. And their job is basically just to either do outbound to these people, so outbound to new followers, story views, stuff like that, or take the inbound inquiries that people send you in the DM. He reaches out to the people that seem interesting. So he kind of, should prioritize the people that seem to be a better fit for the program compared to people that, obviously it's not going to be a good fit, for example. So just prioritizing who to spend time on. Then, obviously you have the opener, kind of like the hook of a video, like getting people interested, getting people to actually engage in the conversation. Then you have qualification, qualifying them before you actually want to book them in, understanding their issues, their goals, widening the gap. Why do they actually want to get help? Is this actually important to them? And then obviously pitching a call. So you basically just have a conversation with people, understand how you can help them, and kind of make them interested in booking on a call, like making it like make sense for them to actually jump on a call. Like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I want help with this, blah, blah, blah. And then from there, we also use pre-recorded voice notes, which is some sauce that I'm going to just show you guys that we've just implemented when it comes to voice notes, like pre-recorded from the client. So the appointment setter can, use voice notes, and it just sounds like they're actually speaking to the real person. That's what we do in the DMs. And then obviously after they book in, which I'm going to show you in just a second, but what we do essentially with the appointment setting is we don't stop the conversation as soon as people have booked in the call. We actually have a conversation with them. We ask them a few questions about the form. And if we're on a fitness offer, we'll also get them to send their physique photos. And then we send this to the actual closer before the call. So, he has all the context from the lead, and just giving them the VSL, giving them some resources, and not just stopping the conversation as soon as they book in the call, but like I said, just kind of warming them up, breaking some of the sales tension, stuff like that. You kind of want to have a conversation with them afterwards as well, and, warm them up before the actual call. And then obviously from here with appointment setting, it's just about like prioritizing quality and then sending volume, of course, to like as many people as possible, having as many conversations as possible. But when it comes to the actual voice notes, as you can see here, this is inside of ManyChat. And what you can do in ManyChat is you can upload voice notes pre-recorded, and the appointments that are inside of ManyChat. If you don't know, ManyChat is like an automation tool for Instagram. You also get your Instagram inbox into ManyChat, so you can actually send messages. And the appointment center can fire these automations inside of the actual chat with the lead inside of IG. So we have pre-recorded voice notes from the client where it's like, just making sure you got my last message, never heard back from you, did you get my message? Reminder about our call, so just reminding about our call later. Did you get the Zoom link? Is everything cool? Are we still good to go? Stuff like that. And then, let me know. I'd love to see if I can help. Stuff like just things that we constantly say in the DMs that we can actually use as a voice note. Even a lot of people ask if this is actually the client. So we just have a voice note where it's like, yes, this is actually Joe. It's not an AI, blah, blah, blah. And then here's my calendar. See if you can find a good time before I head out to the gym. So I can send you some resources before I do, blah, blah, blah. And just a lot of follow-ups. So we actually send these voice notes to, increase people actually replying, because it's a voice note from the actual person. Like it's something they don't get like every single day from other people. And it also makes them like believe really that they're actually speaking to the right person. And this is also something we do with like automation. So we currently have some ads on. So basically right now we just have a split test going with 2 different messages for this ad. And on both of these, basically what we're doing is just giving them the resource they came for. Obviously this one we have kind of a written text and then a voice note. And then on this one, we just have a voice note going over this. So just super cool that you can automate the voice notes, because it just makes everything way more personal, and you're way more likely to get a good reply rate. And people actually believe that they actually speak to the right person. Very cool stuff. And then from there, obviously with appointment setters and everything on the account, you just need to make sure that you're managing them, have the right training, have the right accountability, have the right systems in place, as you can see with end of day reports, checking over, because you just want to make sure that if you have somebody actually speaking to all of your leads in the DMs, that they're actually doing a good job and they're actually putting in the work and actually tracking their stuff and all that stuff. So with that being said, basically we just get people to book in a call. On the actual call page, we have a few questions just to kind of get a little bit more information from them. So like their age, what country they live in, their occupation, their Instagram name. And then we also get them to put in some information about their finances. So we basically just get them to, we frame it in a way where it's like, give us the right information so we can give you the right guidance. So people actually, answer truthfully. And then from there, respect their time, do show up. And then from here, like I said, the appointment setter actually has a conversation with them if they book in on IG, or, if they book in through the VSL, maybe they reach out to them on WhatsApp, whatever. Just has a conversation, ask them a few questions about the form. Maybe if they said, they are an engineer, maybe they asked like, where do you work? How's the hours? Whatever. Like just opening up, like getting the lead to actually open up, warm them up, give them the sales assets, confirm the appointment 24 hours before, 1 hour before, make sure they got the Zoom link, make sure they're going to be showing up, all this stuff. If they have any questions, answer them, stuff like that. And not just end the conversation as soon as they book in. And then from there, we have obviously Calendly. And then from there, as you can see, we send them the pre-call link, which is basically just the thank you page. After they book in the call, we redirect them to a thank you page. We have, the VSL, we have client interviews, client testimonials, results, and just a video kind of explaining the next few steps, what they can expect, how to get the Zoom link, stuff like that, we'll reach out to them on Instagram, WhatsApp, stuff like that. So we just send them back to this page and make sure that they actually go through it, the entire thing, the testimonials, the client interviews, stuff like that. And then from there, we also give them the client interview, so just a link to directly to the client interview on YouTube. And then we also are currently making a Q&A video. So this is going to be just the most common questions and objections that we do get on sales calls. We're just going to make a video of the client actually handling those before the call. So we just have an asset that they consume before the call, answering the most common questions and objections. So we don't have to go through them on each call. And it also warms them up, so they kind of have some context around the different questions and stuff. So it's more likely that they will actually close. 24 hours before, 6 hours before, stuff like that. We just send them back to these assets, and we have some more as well. So we just basically give them a lot of assets before the call, so that once they show up, they're as warm as possible. And then, like I said, the appointment setter also gets all the information, puts it nicely together, and sends it to whoever is doing the call, like the physique photos, what they do for work, their goals, their pain, how much money they have, where they're from, stuff like that. So we kind of know, and their IG link and everything. So the call makes more sense, and everybody, the person jumping on the call has the context of the actual lead. So that's basically everything we do to actually convert the traffic that we do get. And then from here, it's basically just about tracking, tracking the actual funnel, tracking everything from, as you can see here, the sales. So we track the UTM source. So this is the next day, and I just saw that I forgot to basically add in some things here. So I just wanted to add this in here. But basically what I mean by the UTM source is, you can go to this website and you can add in your website here, and then whatever you want to show up as a UTM source. And the UTM source just basically means that you can track where your calls are coming from. So if you do this, your website, and you click, you add in your, whatever, the YouTube title, the Instagram bio, whatever, it's going to show up, this section is going to show up inside of Calendly. So as you can see, this is screenshots from inside of Calendly. And basically what happens is this shows up. So you can see okay, this guy came from the bio, this guy came from IG DMs, this guy came from the email flow, this guy came from this specific YouTube video. So you're just basically able to track, and that's how we have these show up inside of the actual CRM. So we can see okay, this guy came from wherever, and you can track kind of where you're actually booking calls from. This is very good because if you make a few videos and you see that, okay, one of these actually got me, 10 calls and the other one just got me 2 calls. Let's, see why this one booked me more calls, and how we can actually replicate that for future videos, stuff like that. And then, as you know, we just track everything inside of Discord. So we have, booked calls, canceled calls, all of these things, end of day reports, end of day reminders. So we just have everything in one place. And this is also where we do the communication. So, the entire team gets updated once everything is happening, also payments, stuff like that. And then, as you know, we track the conversion rate of the VSL, we track the closing rate, the no-show rate, all this stuff, how many calls we booked, revenue, cash collected, stuff like that. And that's basically how we're able to stay on track and know exactly what's going on. Because if you don't really track your numbers, it's going to be very hard to understand what is the bottleneck, why aren't we booking calls, why don't we make any money. But if you do track your numbers, you can kind of just backtrack everything, right? So you're able to see, okay, shit, I'm not getting enough traffic. I need to make more content, better content. Maybe it's a marketing issue. Maybe I'm not speaking to the right people. If you're not booking enough calls, maybe you have a low conversion rate on the VSL. And again, if you track that, you're able to actually see it and pull it up, and you're able to actually understand why is it not converting. And the same is, it can be a setting issue. So you're not booking in enough calls. It can be that the appointment setting flow is not good. Or maybe you have a lead quality issue. So maybe you get a lot of traffic, but it's not the right traffic. So you're not able to book them in. If you have a low show rate, you might have a bad pre-call flow. Maybe people are confused. Maybe you don't get them the Zoom link in time. Maybe, you aren't confirming the appointments and stuff like that. And then if you don't have a good close rate, then chances are you're booking in bad leads. You don't have enough qualification, or maybe you have a pre-call flow that doesn't really nurture them enough. It doesn't warm them up, and they show up to the call not really, you're not really able to close them. Or maybe you just suck at sales. So you're able to kind of understand what is going on, why are we not getting calls, why is the content not converting, blah, blah, blah. And if you track everything, it's going to be very easy to kind of understand what's going on. So yeah, that's basically everything we did. And by the way, if you are a coach or a creator, if you have a coaching program, if you have an audience and you're trying to get into like high ticket coaching and you want some help with implementing all of this into your business, you know, appointment setters, content, market research, ads, all that stuff, and basically just have it done for you. So, you don't have to worry about it and can focus on making content, serving your clients, whatever, then you can book in a call in the description. It's going to be a call with myself, no closer. Just basically a call to see if we can help you and what that would look like. So it's not really a sales call. It's more just, a conversation to even see if we can help you. And like I said, what it would look like if we can. So with that being said, if you're interested, you can book in a call. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. And I got more videos like this coming. And I'm just kind of trying to give as much value as possible. So also let me know in the comments if you have any video ideas, whatever, anything you want to see. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.